What's good, YouTube? Ben here. Welcome to the next video on the channel. In this one, I'm going to give you my next deck profile on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. This is going to be for Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon. Let's get into this. Right, okay, recently Red-Eyes had a bit of an update with the new fusion monster, or at least finally coming from the OCG to the TCG, which is Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon. So this is my deck profile primarily for that, but you can do other stuff with it. So, we're running 3 copies of the Dark Magician, and this monster not only is used for fusion material for Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, but you can also summon it on its own thanks to Magician Soul's effect, which we'll get into a bit later. So it gives you a 7-star, 2500 beat stick. We've got 3 copies of the Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, which of course is the main monster of the deck. 7-star with 2400 attack points, so 100 less than the Dark Magician. It's also used for fusion material for pretty much everything in the deck, as well as some XYZ material as well. The 2 copies of the Black Metal Dragon, so you can target one Red-Eyes monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or field to that target, it gains 600 attack. If this card is sent from your field to the graveyard, you can have one Red-Eyes card from your deck to your hand. So this not only allows you to pull stuff like Red-Eyes Fusion, Red-Eyes Spirit, Red-Eyes Insight, but it also gives your monsters an attack boost, which is quite nice. And when equipped onto Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, or let's say for example, Meteor Black Comet Dragon, this will instantly take this to 4100 and this to 3600, so giving you more power. 2 copies of Magician Souls. You can send up to 2 spells and traps from your hand and or field to the graveyard, draw that many cards. If this card is in your hand, you can send 1 level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard, then activate one of these effects. Special summon this card, send this card to the graveyard, then you can special summon 1 Dark Magician or 1 Dark Magician Girl from your graveyard. So not only, and you can use the effect once per turn, so not only can you send 2 spells or traps in your hand that might be dead at the time to draw 2 more cards, to get you a bit more draw power, you can also use this card to either summon this specifically or summon up a Dark Magician. So it has a lot of utility in this deck, but we only run it at 2 because I was bricking when I ran it at 3. So 3 copies of Max C. Of course, this is a staple card. Quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. This turn, each time your opponent special summons a monster, immediately draw 1 card. So this can not only shut down your opponent if they don't want you to draw too much, because they'll just end their turn, or if they special summon a lot and are too confident, you can draw an absolute crap ton of cards, and in your next turn, play around whatever negates they've got. 1 copy of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This, of course, is our 1 negate in the deck, or at least 1 major negate. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of these effects, quick effect, you can discard this card, negate that effect. And then you can activate one of these effects, add a card from deck to so this negates one of these effects. Add a card from deck to hand, special summon from the deck, send a card from the deck to the graveyard. You can only use this once per turn. So it allows you to negate a whole bunch of stuff that happens on the board. We don't run more than 1 though, because I was bricking when I had it more than 1, because not everyone is playing around negates. So 2 copies of Red-Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. To level 6 Dragon effect, you can send 1 level 5 or higher normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, then increase its level by 1, so it goes to a level 7 monster. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you could banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 Red-Eyes Fusion from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can only use the effect once per turn. So not only can you add this to the field and make it a level 7 for XYZ plays, but you can also get it to add Red-Eyes Fusion from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So you're able to go into your fusion plays a lot faster if you had this card in the graveyard. 3 copies of Red-Eyes Soul. This card's name becomes Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon while it's on the field or in the graveyard. If your opponent special summons a monster except during the damage step, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, special summon 1 Red-Eyes monster from your hand or deck except Red-Eyes Soul. You can only activate this effect of Red-Eyes Soul once per turn. Quick effect, you can target 1 Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon you control, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the monster's original attack. You can only use this effect of Red-Eyes Soul once per duel. So not only can you inflict burn with this card, but it is also a level 7, so for your XYZ players, but you can also special summon Red-Eyes monster from your hand or deck. So that would include stuff like Red-Eyes Dark Dragon, Red-Eyes Black Meteor Dragon, so you can get those directly to the board, which is nice. But it's also graveyard and field utility because it becomes known as Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon whilst on the field or in the graveyard. So whilst it's on the field, if you do not have Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, but have, let's say, I don't know, you're running a poly in this, because I assume some people take deck ideas and add their own cards, you could then use that to fuse with the Dark Magician in your hand to make Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon. The only reason I don't do that is because running a poly kind of bricks the deck a bit, at least this format. 1 copy of Kashtira Fenrir. Level 7, if you control no monsters, you could special summon this card from your hand, so you can instantly get a 2400 point monster on the board on turn 1 to use for XYZ plays, link plays, anything like that. You can only use each effect of Kashtira Fenrir once per turn. During your main phase, you can add 1 Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, except during the damage step, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and banish it face down. So not only can you just summon this to the board if you have no monsters on your field, but you can also use it to banish once this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect. So you can banish face down, which means you can banish whatever it is, and they have no control over bringing it back, which is quite nice. 2 copies of Kashtira Unicorn. So if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use each effect of the following effect of Kashtira Unicorn once per turn. During your main phase, you can add 1 Kashtira spell from your deck to your hand. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect except during damage step, you can look at your opponent's extra deck, and if you do, banish 1 monster from it face down. So not only does this have the same effect as the other one by adding a Kashtira spell, we'll get into that in a minute, you can also banish one of your opponent's extra deck monsters face down when it declares an attack, or when your opponent activates a monster effect. So you can also start banishing their extra deck, and if their deck relies on it, you can really seriously do some damage. We're running 1 copy of Dark Hole, destroy all monsters on the field. It's a really nice card to have, especially if you draw it turn 1 and they've got a full board. Just wipe it. Same with Raigeki, so it destroys all monsters your opponent controls. 1 copy of Monster Reborn. This can save you in a crunch. I've had it save me a few times in a crunch, just by bringing back one of their monsters I've previously destroyed. It's a really nice card, kind of staple for most decks. 3 copies of Sacred Sword of 7 Stars. Banish 1 level 7 monster from your hand or face-up field. Draw 2 cards. You can only activate 1 per turn. So again, it's a bit of extra draw power into the deck, especially if you've got stuff in your hand that you do not need. 3 copies of Red-Eyes Fusion. Fusion summon 1 Red-Eyes monster that lists a Red-Eyes monster as material from your extra deck, using monsters from your hand, deck, or field as fusion material, and if you do, its name becomes Red-Eyes Black Dragon. You cannot normal or special summon other monsters the turn you activate this effect. You can only activate 1 Red-Eyes Fusion per turn. So this is a great fusion card because it allows you to fuse directly from the deck. However, it does have a drawback. You cannot normal or special summon anything else in that turn. So, for example, if you normal summoned a monster and then went to activate Red-Eyes Fusion, you can't. You can only activate that for a summon in that turn. So, primarily, you want to grab Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon with this because it's got all of its negates and all of its effects, which are just ridiculously OP. So that's primarily what you want to be activating with that. I will go into something near the end of this as well about thinning the deck out to make it more balanced. But this is the format I like. 3 copies of Red-Eyes Insight. You can send 1 Red-Eyes monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, add 1 Red-Eyes spell or trap from your deck to your hand, except Red-Eyes Insight. You can only activate 1 Red-Eyes Insight set per turn. So not only can you send a Red-Eyes monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, you can also add 1 Red-Eyes spell or trap. So for example, Red-Eyes Spirit or Red-Eyes Burn, they get added directly to your hand. Not to mention, if you have these in the deck, you don't need them. You can just send it and add these to your hand. So it's a great way to add extra cards to your hand. 1 copy of Kashtira Birth. You can normal summon level 7 monsters without tributing. During your main phase, you can special summon one of your non-XYZ Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. If your opponent activates a spell or effect and you control a Kashtira monster, you can target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard, banish them face down. You can only use the effect of Kashtira Birth once per turn. So this has a bunch of nutty effects for the few Kashtira monsters we do run, but it also has its main effect. You can normal summon level 7 monsters without tributing. So that means Dark Magician, Red-Eyes Black Dragon, Red-Eyes Soul, like all of those become instant summons, or the other Kashtira monsters, you can instantly summon them. Because, well, instantly normal summon them, without needing to tribute anything, which is quite nice. 3 copies of Red-Eyes Spirit. Target 1 Red-Eyes monster in your graveyard, special summon it. It's quite blatant, basically. It's a Monster Reborn, albeit in trap format and only for Red-Eyes monsters, but it works on any Red-Eyes monster, including Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, be a Black Comet, I believe it affects. It affects Red-Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, so it's just a Monster Reborn. It's good to run it at 3 because of Red-Eyes Insight. And 2 copies of Red-Eyes Burn. If a face-up Red-Eyes monster you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, target one of those monsters. Both players take damage equal to its original attack. So it's a great way to add a bunch of extra burn damage, especially if they're on lower life points. It's helped you win quite a few duels. So that's the main deck. Before we go into the extra deck, one thing you can do to thin it out a little bit, because I've got a few more monsters than I have spells or traps. Again, I like this format, but you could remove 1 Red-Eyes Soul and 1 Red-Eyes Black Dragon to take it to pretty much even, or remove 1 Red-Eyes Soul and add another spell or trap, like 1 more Red-Eyes Burn or any other trap or spell of your preference, just to balance it a bit more. But I kind of like this format. It's worked for me. So, but into the extra deck, we've got 2 copies of Meteor Black Comet Dragon. So it's 1 level 7 Red-Eyes monster and 1 level 6 Dragon monster. So that would be this monster here, Red-Eyes Black Meteor Dragon. If this card is fusion summoned, you can send one Red-Eyes monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. If you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of that monster. If this card in the monster zone is sent to the graveyard, you can target one normal monster in your graveyard, special summon it. Not only can you do burn damage by sending something from your deck to the graveyard, like Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon, but once this monster goes, you can then instantly summon it because of this card's effect. So it's pretty good, and it's a 3500 point beat stick, and not very difficult to summon thanks to Red-Eyes Fusion. 3 copies of Red-Eyes Dark Dragoon. Dark Magician plus Red-Eyes Black Dragon or 1 dragon effect monster. Cannot be destroyed by card effects. Neither player can target this card with card effects. During your main phase, you can destroy one monster your opponent controls, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack. You can only use this effect a number of times per turn, up to the number of normal monsters used as fusion material for this card. So for example, if you use 2 normal monsters, let's say Dark Magician, Red-Eyes Black Dragon, you can activate that effect twice per turn. So that's 2 negates. Oh, sorry, no, that's 2 burns each turn. Once per turn, when a card effect is activated, quick effect, you can discard 1 card, negate the activation if you destroy that card, and if you do that, this card gains 1000 attack. So once per turn, you can also do an Omni Negate, which also gives you 1000 extra attack points, and basically shuts down your opponent, or can help shut down your opponent. Very strong card. We're running 1 copy of number 11, Big Eye. 2 level 7 monsters. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 monster your opponent controls. Take control of that monster. This card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. So if your monster has a big beefy beat stick on the board that has no protection, you can then just remove 1 material, and it's now yours, and you can attack with it. Really good card, actually. At 2600 points, even when you run out of material, doesn't matter. You've still got a 2600 point beater on the field. 3 copies of Red-Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, so it's 2 level 7 monsters. Cannot be destroyed by card effects while it has material. While this card has material, each time your opponent activates a card or effect, inflict 500 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves, so it's a great way to do a bunch of burn. Once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 Red-Eyes normal monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So not only can you, let's say, get 1 free summon from this, because you have 2 materials at minimum, so of course you can just instantly summon a Red-Eyes Black Dragon. If you keep 1 material on it, every time your opponent activates a card or effect, they instantly take 500 points of burn, which is great. This card also has 2800 attack points anyway, so you can do a lot of damage with that. I'm running 1 copy of Striker Dragon, so these I'm going to cut through very quickly because they're not that important to the deck, but they are important in terms of link summoning, because of course link summoning is one of the biggest sort of summoning nowadays. But this is basically there just as an instant link summon. Nightmare Phoenix, of course everyone knows this card. 2 monsters with different names. If this card is link summoned, you can discard 1 card, then target 1 spell/trap your opponent controls, destroy it. So it's a great way to remove back row just in case you can't do anything else. And then of course it was co-linked, you could draw a card. You can only activate the effect of Nightmare Phoenix once per turn. Win the Wind Charmer, so 2 monsters including a wind monster. This I just threw in as material. Predaplant, Verte, Anaconda. This is in for a reason, so 2 effect monsters. You can target 1 face-up monster on the field. It becomes dark until the end of the turn. You can pay 2000 life points and send 1 fusion or polymerization normal quick play spell from your deck to the graveyard. This effect becomes that spell's effect. So the reason I've added this in is purely if you wanted to get rid of, let's say, a Red-Eyes Burn or a Red-Eyes Insight and thing, and add in a few copies of Poly. This would allow you to use that as its effect. So I've added it in just in case I ever do that, because being realistic, there's not that many cards I wanted to add into this deck because it doesn't need that many. 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn, 2 monsters with different names. If this card is link summoned, you could discard 1 card, target 1 card on the field, shuffle it into the deck. And if it's co-linked, draw 1 card. You can activate it once per turn. So it's a great way to shuffle something back into the deck, because usually, you know, a lot of monsters, let's say Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon, are protected by, cannot be destroyed by targets or whatever. I know it can't be targeted anyway, but like, say use that part of the effect. You can then send it back to the deck, as opposed to just removing it. And 1 copy of Saryuja Skull Dread, so 2+ monsters with different names. This card gains effects based on the number of materials used for its link summon. If it's 2+, if a monster is normal or special summoned to a zone this card points to, that monster gains 300 attack defense. 3+, once per turn during your main phase, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand. And 4, when this card is link summoned, you can draw 4 cards from the deck and then place 3 cards from your hand on the bottom of the deck in any order. That has a bunch of different effects with 2800 points. It's not that difficult to summon, and you could basically just get a bunch of draw if you use 4 cards for it. So it's really good to run. Let me know what you think about this deck in the comments down below. Don't forget you can also support the channel even further by liking, commenting, and subscribing completely for free. You can support even further than that but then by becoming a channel member from as little as 99 pence per month. And don't forget, I do live stream. When I go live here on YouTube and over on Twitch. My streams here on YouTube are in the shorts form feed, some more for mobile. If you want to catch the exact same streams at the exact same time in full 1080p, feel free to join me on Twitch. That link is in the description below.